Nobody knows who I am. I'm this blonde dude from Berlin going on this Arabic wedding stage. What am I so? Okay, I guess I'm playing techno now.
The show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong, the show must go wrong.
The way that I like to start the podcast is to just have you quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah. So hi, my name is Elias. I go under the DJ name Elias Doré, and I DJ, produce music. Also on the side, I do a lot of work with the body, breath, movement, and music. I'm really into breath work. I work as a music and gestalt therapist with clients. I also guide heroes journeys, seminars, which are like self-development, kind of intensive deep dives for a week. I recently also started hosting singing circles because I'm also passionate about the voice and how it's an access to, kind of that which is inside and many things, but mostly it's about music.
Yeah.
And all that comes with it.
Well, I'm very excited to get to talk to you. As I said when I reached out to you, I saw you first at this festival Lusatia that was, I think, in 2019 maybe, and anyways, I've just been a fan, and so I'm excited to get to chat with you a little bit. The way that I like to usually start is, the theme of the show is like bad gigs. And that being said, it's interesting for me to get to start to expand out into non-comedians that I talk to, other performers, and so I'm wondering, maybe to start, is like, what feels like a bad gig for you? Do you have moments where you leave a festival or a club or an ecstatic dance and feel like, I didn't love my performance today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, a bad gig as a DJ is, having a bad gig as a DJ is interesting because, like, usually the crowd, like, there are still moments in my sets of joy and people, like, enjoy it, but it can still coexist with me not having really maybe felt the moment, the floor, the crowd, or myself well. And then it's very interesting because, like, I maybe leave the stage or the club feeling a bit empty, not connected, or feeling like, oof, this was not really a good gig. But everyone else maybe felt, oh, it was an amazing time. So I actually sometimes reflected on that, because especially in the DJ world, it's all about hype and success and being awesome, and every drop and boom, you have all these highlight reels that just showcase the moments of intensity. How can we bring also more authenticity into, like, hey, when it didn't work so well? But then I thought, like, it's also, like I said, maybe a lot of people really enjoyed it. And like then it feels for me towards like the people I play the music for, it also feels a bit strange to then, like maybe you had a great gig. You had a great time dancing, and then the DJ afterwards comes and was like, oh, I felt so disconnected, and I was and then it also leaves, I guess, the dancers afterwards with a bit of a weird feeling. Like, so I've thought of really back and forth about that, and I feel it's not so easy.
Yeah, it is. That's a good point because I mean, I've had it often at shows where I feel like that show just wasn't, I know how good a show can be. And so I think sometimes when it's not that, you or I will be like, man, it wasn't quite, I missed to say this second part of this joke, and I got lost here, and the energy. And same thing, if you talk to those people leaving the show, they might be like, I had a good time. But the difference is like they're not going to shows all the time versus how you've been on thousands of dance floors at this point, right? So maybe do you think part of it is that your expectation is somewhat shaped by how immersed you are in the world?
Yeah, I think there's different layers to it. I think there's on the one side, of course, my inner critic, which is a strong one, and which is like definitely I learned to embrace him. He's my buddy, but he still is annoying me sometimes, of course. So yeah, there's my own aspiration to like really play always at my best level and a really good set. Which was one side, but there's also really the side which I mentioned also, this sometimes when I don't really connect so well, and when I remember a gig maybe half a year ago, where I really felt very chased by the crowd. Like I could really feel that as soon as I played maybe a bit more melancholic, a bit like slower, people would leave the dance floor, and I was booked as the headliner. And then there's a lot of pressure, like I felt in that moment to like, okay, every DJ's nightmare, an empty dance floor. And that it's like 3 a.m. and there's like no one dancing anymore. And then how do you fill that back up? It luckily never happened to me. I never emptied a dance floor, but it's still, I guess it's every DJ's nightmare. So in this, for example, that gig, I felt very like pressured and chased. I ended up playing a lot of high intensity, high energy tracks to keep kind of this momentum. But I felt it was also a lot of the younger generation in the club, which, as we all know, I guess, like the younger crowd is more into harder, faster, high-paced music, which I don't play so much. So that was for me very interesting. I came out of that gig and was really feeling like, wow, I was hard to stay true to myself on that night, and I feel a bit empty.
Yeah. Okay, so that's actually something else I always wanted to ask about that is interesting is like, as a DJ, you are connecting with the dancers and reading the floor and the energy, and choosing your tracks based on this or whatnot. But I'm interested in like, what's the line between I'm here to like serve the dance floor and I'm an artist, I have my sound, who I am, ultimately this is what I have to offer. So yeah, where is that line when you're DJing in a situation like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I thought about it and still think about it a lot. Was also making some reels about it recently, like really, because I felt like this question of like, okay, how much, where is like the part, your identity, my identity as a DJ, my really preferences, and this part of serving the dance floor, like how do they connect? Where's the balance? And I feel it's one of those questions that is really a gray area, because there is my soul, my identity, my music taste and passion, what I love. And there was also recently, I played in Costa Rica, and I played 2 gigs. And the first one I had prepared a lot. I was really like making every transition, making sure it's like the perfect set. And it was a really good set, And the second one, I had like not slept for nights because of jet lag and the heat. And I was really at the end of my energies. And I stood on the stage and I just didn't give a fuck. Like I just was like, I'm happy if I don't faint. I'm happy if I survive the next 2 hours. Yeah. And I was like, well, then I might as well just do whatever the fuck I want. And then it was an amazing gig. Like it was really amazing. I had like such a flow, and was really didn't care how I looked dancing, didn't care, like all these photographers around. I was like, I don't care, closing my eyes, just playing whatever I like. And it was really amazing. And that kind of was a moment where I was again like, trusting my gut, my taste is the way to go. But there's also moments where I really notice and where I know, okay, I would love to play this track right now, but it's not serving this moment, and it's really this question, like, it doesn't always matter what I play, but why do I play it? Why, like, are people drifting towards the bar? Are they bored? Are they checking their phones? Or do I feel like they are exhausted because it's been one banger after the other, and like I've been building and building and building, and there's only so much a nervous system can take. And you know, I have this thing which I sometimes say to my friends, that a good DJ set is like it's like good sex, you know, like you cannot just like play in one intensity, or you can, if you don't get started, if you like don't manage to take off, also it doesn't, you know, resonate. It's really it's about like an attunement between you and the crowd, feeling, checking, sensing, also then going back to your collection. What key, what like groove comes now? How does it connect to where they are dancing? Do they need like a little wake up moment of like, oh, there's something that catches me off guard and that gives me joy again? Or would that, what's the word in English? Would that be too much for them, overwhelm them? And actually, what they need is like, some groove to just, you know, some easy groove to like get into it because it's been a bit shaky and the DJ set before, or I don't know what. Yeah. And there's so many factors coming in.
So let me ask one more question about that. It's maybe a little bit in the weeds, but just because I'm interested. One thing I love about your sets is I feel like you incorporate a lot of like what I would describe as like musicality and like beauty. You know, like you have the, you know, something to get the moving, but it's like there are these little moments in a set where it's just like, for me, and that's what I love. These are my favorite moments. Is where it's like you can kind of almost zoom out from like here to like, all right, I'm here. I'm in the world. These people are dancing. It's like a beautiful come together kind of moment. You know, it's the moment where you grab your friend by the shoulder or whatever. Those moments, do those just come to you naturally of like, I think this moment is needed, or do you have in your head at least like, I have these 3 or 4 tracks that I think can serve these type of moments, and I'll know when like the time is right for that?
Yeah, it's also a good question. I know exactly what you mean, and I think this is definitely a core part of who I am or how I see myself as DJing, is that I really have a deep love for creating those moments and for connecting people, for touching the hearts, as cheesy as it may sound. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's really, there was one friend once said about my sets that she feels like when I'm in the good flow and when it's aligned, I manage to sometimes create these bubbles of, these like a bulb of love, like really where it's really, people really feel like everyone is together in this, and people feel touched and hug their friends and are really moved by the music. And I do have a few tracks quite a few tracks that I know touch maybe, or in a good moment bring this out. But it's very interesting, right? Because it doesn't automatically happen. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. You can't like start with a track that's magical and beauty and melodic, and then you'll have this moment. It doesn't work like this. It's a journey, and maybe it can happen in like the half, maybe in the latter bit, but like also how do you build towards it? You know, do you build maybe a bit of softness before, or like how do you? It's very, and I feel it's difficult. You can't just play like a track doesn't stand in isolation. Like one funny example of this is also really for me. I was playing in India 2 years ago, a small tour, and there was really like this warm-up DJ before me, and he played like, I think probably your listeners won't know these label names, but like just Afterlife is a big techno label, and he played like kind of all these mainstream bangers, top 10 melodic techno tracks of the last like 5-6 years at 9 p.m. to a crowd of 0. Like the people were standing on the tables and there was no one, and I waited for me to take over after him, and I was like, gosh, like this is not a warm-up, this is a cool down, and I'm like he's giving me a very much cold dance floor. And you know, like this is kind of to illustrate, maybe bring that point home, like a track can have epicness and warmth and heart to it, but it's how do you embed it, and how it
needs context.
It needs context, exactly. Like good jokes, like a narrative, right? It lands at a certain point. And it's funny, actually. I did I just now lately I do like so I'm studying. I'm kind of finished with a master's in music therapy that I did for the last 3 years, and I had to do 75 hours of therapy myself, taking it, music therapy. And one thing you do there is the musical life panorama, which means that you make like a timeline of your entire life, and you remember everything that was music related in your life, from the first song you listened, you heard maybe your mom sing, to your first music teacher, and you note down everything on this gigantic timeline. And I remember that I was only listening to classical music when I was like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, when others would listen to Backstreet Boys and sync. I was still listening to Mozart and Beethoven, and kind of geeky. And I remembered there was this part where I wanted to be like the cool, good, talented son. You know, I was like also taking in this like, oh, he's only listening to classical music from parents and alike and family. But there was also a big part where I really loved it. I really loved the epicness of the hits, the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, like the Hall of the Mountain King, Carmina Burana. I loved this deep, this epic emotions in there. And it really, I think it really marked me as a young boy, as a person, as a human. And I sometimes feel it's funny because I feel like this definitely, like this harmonic understanding, like connection, it still resonates to this day in my sets.
Well, it's interesting because I never really thought about it. My parents listened to a lot of classical music when I was growing up, and I had a little opposite of you. I was like, I don't like this just because you guys like it, you know? And then as an adult, like coming back to some of those things, you're like, wow, this is so epic. And in a way, it's almost the most analogous thing to like techno or electronic music because, you know, bands, it's the layers is 5, right? Maybe instruments. And the layers in like a composition, like a electronic song or in an orchestra are, you know, so many different layers, so many little sound escapes and this like a kind of lack of lyric, you know, thing where the focus is really the melody and the music. I never thought about it, but it is very, they have a real through line, the two of them.
They do, yeah, absolutely. Like so many, and the strings are like pads, of course, and all that. And of course, strings are also used in electronic music. And I mean, it's really definitely quite similar.
So to go back quickly to that, to the song, you know, like these moments of beauty. I'm wondering, have you had an experience where you felt like you built it up in the right way and you're, you know, everything is kind of feels like it's working and you're like, now's the time, and you go in your bag and you take one of your special and you put it there and it just doesn't work?
Yeah, of course. But it's more like, I feel it's more when I want it too much. Like it's when I want it too much to work, or when there's actually this feeling of like, I'm not quite sure if it's the moment, but I would like, how I would like now to create such a moment. Then I grab such a track and I'm like, it doesn't really land, at least also not with me.
Yeah.
And then maybe with some people, but of course, always hard to tell. You cannot make a questionnaire with 500 people afterwards. How did you experience the track 3 minutes before the half-hour mark? And like, so, it's more, definitely, it has happened,
and how does that feel in that moment? Because
awkward.
And
it feels like, it's funny because it's a bit. Like you say, like it's these moments are special, but it feels a bit like, just like a mismatch, like a bit like being in the wrong, like, this is just not really the vibe of this moment. And music is such a fascinating and special thing, and playing the wrong track or the wrong vibe in a moment feels so off.
Yeah. Well, I'm just interested by that because it's a similar phenomenon in comedy, which is like you can have a joke that I know works. I know I've done this in a million different rooms and it always works to some level, but then there are these random nights where you bring it and it just doesn't work, and it's something in yourself or something in the audience that night or in the room, and that's it. That to me is like where I get the closest to spiritual, like mysticism and spirituality. Is it's just audiences to me are such an interesting example of that. They create their own energy. It's unique every time, and it's and you can't rely on what they're going to create together, you know. What can you? So I guess let's go back. Can you tell me a little bit about like how you first started DJing or producing?
Yeah, I think I've told this story also quite a few times. So if there's people listening who listened to me in podcasts before, you can jump ahead. But yeah, I mean, it was basically, it's funny because it also, again, ties a bit back to, I guess, my inner, how I'm sometimes used to be hard on myself, and that I had this huge passion for electronic music and was a big party kid, like in the early 2010s, like 2012 onwards. But I didn't have this idea or didn't dare, maybe I could add something to it. I felt like, everything is out there, all the DJs around and my crew, my not crew, but my bubble, they play all the amazing music. What could I add? And it only then happened really when I was out of Berlin, when I was in London, studied a master's at the School of Oriental and African Studies. And there I had a lot of friends with whom I played in a Balkan Klezmer gypsy band. I played saxophone still back then. And we made music, like klezmer music, dancey with 10, 11 people. But they all didn't know techno. Or like the only thing they knew about electronic music was like not so nice London kind of what was played in those clubs. And I was always like, but guys, like there's really good electronic music. Like they can be really melodic. It can really be like interesting and like move you and be groovy. And they were like, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I guess I gotta show it to all of you here. There's no one playing decent music, so I'll try to DJ.
Yeah.
And then I got myself 2 small controllers over Christmas, I think 2014, 15. And then played my first little set in a university bar, in a basement bar.
Yeah.
And people ended up dancing on the tables and were like going crazy. And I was like, I seem to be good at that.
Yeah.
And then I was like really going more and more into it, was like excited, was like finding so much joy in it, discovering all this music back then. And it was in the 2014, 15, 16, all these years, it was also a lot this wave of very world music infused electronic music, which was really resonating with me a lot because I played in many bands, and I have a big love for world music, for music from all corners of the world. So I was like, wow, I want to play this.
Yeah.
And then, there was this funny thing where I recorded a podcast and I asked a friend for feedback, a podcast meaning like a mixtape.
Like I say, yeah.
Mixtape for an hour. And I sent it to him and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? Would love to hear feedback. He was a DJ. And he said like, this is amazing stuff. Really well mixed and really cool really cool mix. You should play at Sisyphus. And I was like, well, are you crazy? I mean, we should, I guess. That would be amazing. But why? How? And he was like, I'm doing the booking. Like, I'll try to get you at the beach. And then he got me a slot at Sisyphus at the beach.
So wait, okay, that's crazy. Because I mean, for some listeners who aren't completely in Berlin, but like, Sisyphus is the first club I ever went to. It's a incredible spot. And so, I mean, you have it sounds like you had like a long background in music, but you kind of just start messing around with some controllers. And then how many gigs had you done when you've then?
I mean, it was like 6-7 months after I like had my first little gig.
But you had spent time on stage in bands and stuff.
Yeah, on band. I was like, I didn't mention this in the intro. I played in like my first band, real band with lots of gigs when I was 17, ska, power pop, reggae, folk band, all the genres mixed. Then it dissolved a year or two later, and then I joined a reggae, soul, dub, dancehall band as a keyboarder. Before I played bass guitar. And then I was there as a keyboarder for 3 or 4 years, traveled around the world, came back, was still with the band. And then I went to London, the reggae band ended, and the Klezmer gypsy band started. So I don't know, I've been like on stages with bands a lot. And then this faded, or this transformed into the DJing. And then afterwards, I was also in big bands, in jazz big bands also for a while.
But I guess my point with that question is just, I think for a lot of people, getting up on stage in front of people is intimidating. So being like, I'm 6 months into my DJ career, and then it's like you're playing at the beach at Sisyphus, which is like such a, you know, for a certain group of people, that's kind of like an iconic, cool,
absolutely,
like place and opportunity. So it would make me nervous or a little bit anxious. How did you feel going into that?
To be honest with you, I don't remember. It was 11 years ago, so I really don't remember much. But I think, of course, I was super nervous. I had prepared everything. No, I remember still. I had prepared a lot. And I was nervous, and all the tracks. And then I DJ'd. I played these tracks in the order I had prepared them for, and it really caught on with people. It was a beautiful vibe. And then at some point, I was out of the prepared list, and I was like, "Oh, this went much faster than expected." And then I was like, "Okay, I guess I gotta play now and improvise. How does that work?" And then I chose tracks, and it still worked well. But I was nervous, and I'm totally aware. Like, it was really a big luck, like that I knew this person, this friend. I had spent with him time on festivals, but it's also funny because I feel like, so like, you could also, maybe it would also happen in a way, I was really strategic, and I tried to get friends and get all my, connections out to play at those and those clubs. And I was really oblivious to, I was just like, "Oh, hi, can you give me some feedback?" I didn't even know he was the booking there. And it was really funny. So yeah, I guess I'm really also very aware. I got very lucky because many people like try for months or years to get a slot at Sisyphus, and it is an iconic, amazing place that's like a mini festival in the middle of Berlin. And yeah, it definitely also helped my career a huge bit that I started out there. And then online, back then SoundCloud was still relevant, much less so today, but back then sets would really go viral. And I think my first sets from Sisyphus got also then listened to by people in the States, and then I got invited to New York, I think very fast after a year or two into DJing.
Wow. So was that like a weird transition for you to go from being in a band with other people where you're, you have other people's energy to bounce off of, to kind of being up there by yourself? And of course you have the dancer's energy, but that's a different dynamic.
Yeah, it was a bit for sure a bit strange, but I also have to say, I think in the beginning I also really appreciated this not needing to coordinate anymore so many people.
Yeah.
Because after all these years in bands with rehearsals and all the like, who can come where, when, how do we make this concert happen? He can't, he has 2 other bands, she is gone, I don't know. It was like, it's only my calendar.
Yeah.
I can decide, do I want or do I not? This is very easy. And in the beginning, I loved that I'm my own boss and I can do whatever I want. But it also, quite after some years, the first years, it also really struck me, it's also can be quite lonely.
Yeah.
And that is a part of DJing that for sure some people have mentioned, but it's still, I think, not talked about so much. It's really about the mental health aspect that, it's really like you're alone, you travel to wherever in a plane and then you arrive. And if you're lucky, there's other DJs, that you're maybe even friends with, but you can also sometimes arrive and there's no one really taking care of you, no artist dinner, you're just in a hotel. Then you go to the club, say, "Hi, I'm DJing," get past the bouncers, go to your box, play, and then go home again.
Yeah.
Or you end up in some after hours and do stupid things and stay up until the morning and go directly to your plane or what. But I don't do these things much. So
one thing I always like to ask on the podcast is, have you come up over the years of, going, touring, doing these different gigs, have you come up with any strategies to manage the loneliness or to soften that jolt from being so connected, up in front of everybody to that being alone again afterwards?
Yeah, not really a strategy, but yeah, I listen. I put my noise canceling headphones on the way home. I listen to music that's calming for me. That does me good. Emotional music with not electronic, more like neoclassic, Niels Fram, things like that, and connect to myself and try to also, if there's a feeling of loneliness, to just be with it, sit with it, and not push it away, and be like, just like, and this is how it is right now, feeling a bit lonely, and then going to bed. And the next morning, usually it's also, it can be sometimes, it just sometimes is hard. So I think there's not really a magic bullet I can answer you, but I then sometimes also, what helps me is realizing again also that, of course, like every job, it has its downsides and its tough parts, but then also like it is this, maybe I miss times with my friends because I'm on weekends away on shows or whatever, but also I'm there in the week time. I work not a 9-to-5 job. I do different freelance things, but I have also more free time than maybe other people, So I try to always remind myself also, it's also a huge gift and blessing, and I'm very grateful for all the, the places I've gotten to travel to, gotten to travel to so many places around the world and see them just through my work. And that is something that also, very few people get to experience this, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah. That's a good reminder, and that kind of actually feeds well into something else I wanted to ask you about. So, obviously you have your career as a music producer, as a DJ. As you mentioned at the top, it's like you do breath work, you do, you also DJ at like some of these ecstatic dances. So it feels, from an outside perspective, a little bit like you have feet in two worlds. Like there's this party world to some extent, and then a world that's a little bit more intentional and spiritual. And from my own perspective, it's like those two worlds can both be in harmony and butt heads a little bit. And is that something that you struggle with in terms of finding the balance between the two?
There's so much to say to that. Yeah. I think, it's funny because I feel also a lot of people from this party or intensity world also seek out such experiences. So there's definitely I feel there's a link there. And also, I know a lot of people in the whole conscious spheres that have a past in the more ravey world. But it's sometimes what I definitely struggle a bit with is sometimes to make people, or what you're saying is that for people from the outside, I think they don't quite know in which box to put me. And then it's a bit like, I don't want to be put in a box. And yet, of course, I want people to kind of, understand and know what I do, what I stand for. And I am in the end a bit in between worlds. And it's funny because I started a podcast 2 or 3 years ago. I only did 6-7 episodes, but it was called In Between Worlds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I called it Zwischen den Welten, like German. And not because I was thinking about myself, but because it was about my guests, that I was inviting people who were bridging different worlds. But of course, everything that comes out and you name or you have an idea that comes from you and is inside you. Otherwise, you wouldn't think of it.
Yeah.
So it was actually afterwards I realized, it's as much about me as it is about my guests. I'm definitely in between these worlds a bit, and I really love it. I really, really love it because I do love these moments of connection with everyone where, yes, people have drunken secco, people have taken substances, and it's a crazy mess, and it's an intensity, a celebration of life, and just the full spectrum. And as much also I love these deep spaces, really, of contact where I'm working with groups and, maybe there's a sharing round, I'm holding the space and there's tears, there's moments of real connection. And afterwards I come out of this maybe hour, often usually it's an hour or more of a morning round, for example. And I just feel, wow, like this is what it is to be human. This is what it is to be alive. Like there was 16 people honestly just opening up how they feel on a Wednesday morning in this moment, in this place. And to witness, support, and empower that is just so beautiful. Yeah.
You're involved in like ecstatic dance as well. And I was a big, I've sadly I haven't been as into it, but I was really into this movement meditation stuff when I was in California. And I think it's like an underappreciated idea because I meet a lot of people here who they love to go dancing, but have maybe some misgivings about, the partying, the drinking, the sleeping, whatever, and they don't see a future for themselves dancing. And so I'm wondering if you could just maybe, I don't know, give your pitch on maybe why more people should get into ecstatic dance.
I think something that's really holding people back about going to ecstatic dances is the whole hippy dippy spirituality ick that people get, which I can really understand because I do love hippie spaces. I'm definitely a hippie at heart, but there's also for me parts where for me it's a bit too much. If there's too much talk about crystal energies, something star signs, I'm out, and it really, and there's incense everywhere. Yeah, it's for me a bit like I can still do it as it's okay, but like I can really see how that turns people off. And in Berlin, there's a cool crew like Tanzen 3000, Tanzen 3000. They do kind of the ecstatic dance without the woo-woo. Also good old like Thomas, he's I think a co-founder. I also we go back a long way. They do something where you can go where it's like without so much of this spirituality. For me personally, their music, like the genres they have in their sets, some of them are not resonating with me so much. I think they have also a lot of hip hop and breakbeat glitch. And my ecstatic dances that I like are really more. They're really more infused with like the club side of Berlin and the club music. And yeah, I think people should really give it a chance. But in the end, I can also really understand if you go once and you never go again, because I've also been at really bad ecstatic dances. And if the space holding is off, or of course, most importantly, if the DJ and the journey is off, it's so boring and it feels so, you're like, oh God, what is this? And I don't feel ecstatic at all. And then maybe you come never back. So I can really understand that.
Is it when I was going to a lot of ecstatic dances, it felt like there was, I don't know if a formula is quite the right word, but there was like a natural arc to every dance, which was like it started with like always kind of something very like slow and worldy. To your hippie point, a lot of people rolling around on the ground, which is fun. I like it. And then kind of building into this big crescendo, and then the end of the dance kind of again slowing down and giving it time to like is that true also at the dances here in Berlin?
That depends on every DJ who does it, but the end ecstatic dance, to maybe just give a mini X-course, it's kind of like the little stepchild or son of the 5 rhythms.
Yeah,
that's a dance form that was initiated by Gabriel Roth, a dance and movement therapist, and the 5 rhythms are basically like 5 stages where they're all, I think, 15, 20 minutes. And it's like, there's like, oh God, I forgot the names. But yeah, basically they're different from stillness to like staccato to chaos. They have these different names. And the ecstatic dance kind of dissolved a bit these precise levels or stages into like more of a journey. But the arc is similar. So like that's why you also call it a wave. So wave like from the stillness building up to a crescendo, a peak, and then coming down. But yeah, how I like to play it is a bit different, and I feel also definitely other DJs do it also. It's more like, to not make it so mono-directional. in the way of like, oh, okay, well, we start slow, we go into faster, intensity, ecstatic, and end. I like to have like, a little like more like an ocean, go up, get some intensity, and then maybe go like a little left turn, different rhythms, breakbeat, maybe whatever, give people some, okay, that's something different. And then again, maybe another, attempt to go and then really bring the roller coaster up to an intensity to really in a peak and then a slowdown. So you could call it a two-folded wave is what I like to do because. Yeah.
And when you're preparing for an ecstatic dance, is that feel different than preparing for a set at a festival? Or
oh yeah, 1,000%. Like it's so much more work. Like ecstatic dance, people are sober, people are present. Like people notice if something feels off, and you can't just play a regular club set. Like you can, but then I think it's a really lame ecstatic dance. Like ecstatic dance lives from the variety, lives from the surprise, lives from the differences in rhythms and songs and genres. And how do you link up from, many BPMs fast to something slow without it feeling like a total crazy break? Maybe you want to integrate a classical piece of music. Maybe you want to come with a waltz, like a flute fiddly piece from Ireland in the middle. Like how do you do that with it still being a coherent sound musical journey? And that takes preparation. Like, of course, at some point there's some experience, goes faster, but yeah, it takes so much more time.
And is there any like weird dynamics in the worlds where it's like that there are some DJs who are like, I just do ecstatic dances, you do clubs, like, ugh, like that's not, or vice versa? Like, are there DJs who are doing the clubs who are like, why are you doing these dances? Or is it, does it happen just organically?
I can't say really because of course that would be kind of generalizing. That people,
right.
One side, but I sometimes I feel, or I more like, let's say, I wonder if people from the club scene have a bit like this impression that I have now converted to the ecstatic dance world, and I'm not so much playing into the club world anymore. I sometimes wonder that, but I don't know if it's true. And I do think that there's definitely some like purely ecstatic dance DJs who have like, let's say at least a bit of a disconnect, or maybe they look down on the club world. I don't know. I really can't say it. But for sure, like I think there's some people are between these worlds, but for many also I think it's quite separate.
Yeah. Well, so I want to maybe steer us back towards talking a little bit about bad gigs as we wrap up. But I have one last question, which regarding kind of the DJ world, so to speak. When I started the podcast, it was like, oh, this is about bad shows. And then the more I've done it, the more I'm realizing it's like that. It's that, but it's also, it just keeps coming to being an artist in the age of social media. And so I guess I'm wondering, for myself, I know it's like, I don't really like posting or being online. It feels inarguably a necessary thing I have to do if I want to have a career. And so I'm constantly battling with like the side of myself that's like, oh, I should just make something that I really like and I'm proud of, and hopefully people will connect with it. And this thing of like, but also I need some people to connect with some of the stuff I'm making so that they maybe even see the stuff that I'm proud of. So how do you feel about kind of navigating that landscape?
Yeah, I guess I feel like we all feel very similar about it. It's a necessary evil, not necessary, or it's something that nowadays, like as an artist, like it's hard to not be present. I was actually yesterday coming back from a festival with a singer-songwriter who's been making music for 20 years, and he's not on Instagram. And I was like, wow, that's so crazy. He has a huge newsletter list. But yeah, for me, it's really, as an electronic music artist, it's not possible to be not on Instagram. And yeah, I definitely sometimes feel the feel the pressure to do things there, but then also I become better at also like being like, no, I don't care, I don't feel like posting anything, there's not much new coming these next weeks, so it's fine. And also over the last years I really found joy in like making content that I enjoy, and making things I find funny. And it started, I think 2-3 years ago. I was like, oh, it's actually funny to do little funny, quirky reels, filming myself, doing self-dialogue or these kind of things. And yeah, I feel it's really about finding the way that works for you, that you don't feel, oh God, I don't want this is awkward, I don't want to be seen like this, or I don't want to put myself out there like this. But yeah, what works for you? And then find that way, that path, and make it yours. And try to not, get sucked in and dominated and depressed by this whole machinery. But of course, like, I mean, I think maybe you know it too. Maybe I feel we all know it. It can be really tough, right? When you put a lot of love and yourself into a real thing or whatever, and then you get like 10 likes and nobody cares. And you feel like, wow, I've screamed into the ether, into the universe, and nobody gives a flying fuck. That can be really sad. And then you compare yourself and all the and this,
well, you said something on Instagram that I thought was interesting, in that vein of like I think you got booked for a gig in, I want to say it was like Panama or Central America somewhere, but you're like, I got booked for this song that I did many years ago that I don't even like the song that much anymore. And you're like, you never know what's going to, and I think that's also something when it comes to social media is like, you make something, maybe it doesn't connect this time, but it's like, you don't know what might come of it, who might see it and remember you and reach out in a few years. Have you had other experiences like that with where something that you wouldn't have thought would bring you work brought you something?
Not on the top of my head. I can't remember, but I think you're absolutely right. It is that, like you never know who resonates with something. And maybe under these 10 likes of something you put a lot of love in is like a promoter from somewhere or a booker in a little venue that really appreciated the honesty or the message you brought across. And so, you never know. And this is also something where I really love social media, like when I started making music in my first bands, there was MySpace, and that was the beginning of like, you had friends, I think, friends, and then you could upload songs, and how that has all evolved, and we can share thoughts with each other, we can share perspectives, and it's always this crazy balance, right, between authenticity, how much is this persona, like how much is here, how much do I want to show of myself, how much privacy, how much, and I think we all try to navigate this, this world.
Well, it's interesting also from an outside perspective. It's like I feel like each, genre or like niche has its own cliches within social media, and as more of a fan and a consumer, it feels like, especially in the DJ rave world, it's a lot of like, we're having fun, like look at this cool party, like everybody's having a great time, there's a track, there's a sunset, blah blah blah, and it feels like that might make it feel a little bit more challenging to be vulnerable and share things that are more like, I did this show and now I'm a little sad in my hotel room or whatever.
No, you're totally right. I feel that also. I feel really, it's such in this bubble, especially like it's such a high-paced social media world where like these epic moments, these drops get like so much attention, so much likes, so much like reach. And it can very quickly make you feel, oh, well, I don't have such a big drop, or I don't know what. And at the same time, when I have a video, when someone caught something on tape, like on camera, that was an amazing moment of a set of mine, of course, I also love it. I'm enjoying it, like rewatching it. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, that was such amazing energy. And then I also post it. So, not to say like, oh, no, I don't participate in this game of seeking the highs and the highlights. Of course, I also do. But yeah, it really comes with this, not say prize, but it comes with this dynamic of also feeling like, well, oh, I didn't have huge gigs in the last weeks and I don't have such material. And I really loved, like, there was a post recently from Lasse Akut. He's also a DJ producer, really, really sweet guy. And I think he shared a few days or weeks ago that he played at an old people's social place somewhere in Brandenburg and did like a live set there. And he had some videos he shared where like they were all sitting on these benches or like I think also around chairs, and he was alone in front of the desk and doing a live set. And it was really a very special, funny sight. And he was like, yeah, I guess he was writing, I guess your feed is full of epic festival moments. Well, I did something different this weekend. Yeah. And I loved it. I was like, oh man, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think to me, that's where as a performer, that's where those are the most interesting moments in many ways. Like that's where you learn the most. What have you had, it doesn't have to be the most strange, but like when I ask you, what's the kind of like weirdest gig in that ilk? Is one come to mind?
I mean, something that comes to mind, I mean, I've played definitely some crazy places, but yeah, something that comes to mind, I was once playing at a wedding in Beirut on a big hill in Lebanon overlooking the city in the night on a huge stage, I don't know, 6-7 meter high like things. And before me was this Arabic like Lebanese DJ playing these like hits, and people would dance, like Arabic wedding, like fancy, chic and big. And then I was scheduled, and then I went up there and I was like, what am I? Nobody knows who I am. I'm this blonde dude from Berlin going on this Arabic wedding stage. What am I? So, okay, I guess I'm playing techno now. And then people loved it and people danced, but still it was very intimidating because there was also the place in front of the stage was as big as the stage. So also then, and it was late, and people were drunk and the wedding was also not going to last so much longer. And I was like, the fears of, emptying that, like being in front of an empty stage place. It's like, but I know it ended up being memorable and epic, but definitely one of those more random moments where I was like, wow, where's life taking me?
Yeah. So funny. Do people want you to come like do techno to close their wedding? Like, is that something you've done before?
Oh, yeah. Like, actually, a lot of times. Like, just recently now, I played for a really sweet French couple. They booked me. They've known me for 6-7 years in Berlin, in different places. In Rummelsburg, they saw me. In Sisyphos. And yeah, I've played quite a few weddings with electronic music, and I really love it because it's like you have all these generations. You have the kids, you have the grandparents, the wedding, the friends, the couple, and I love to then, bring this kind of, I would say, ecstatic dance experience into it and bring all these genres, that also there's some funk and disco covers the grandparents know, and then I get everyone on the dance floor, and it's beautiful. It's really touching to see like the father dancing with the son, dancing with the bride, and yeah, so I really, it's very beautiful. And it's really not like, if you hear like, oh, it's a wedding gig, you think of like this sad little entertainer in front and like playing hits and, I don't know, 90s. But of course, I don't do that. I play my music and it's often really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so to go a little bit back to the theme of the show, bad gigs. I'm wondering, so sometimes a bad gig for you is like, I'm not connecting with the audience, or your inner critic, as you said. Actually, that's something specific I wanted to ask you. So for me, I can tell if I'm having a good or bad show by how much my inner monologue is going. Like, I think that sometimes is surprising to people, is like that I could be on stage talking and also talking to myself, but you do the jokes over and over again. But when I'm feeling good, it's like I'm not thinking. It's more what I have imposter syndrome to call it flow state, but it's what I imagine that to be kind of like. And what's happening inside for you in the difference between like you're in the groove versus you're not in the groove?
I think when you mentioned imposter syndrome, that's also what I definitely sometimes feel, that I'm like, oh fuck, it's not connecting to people. It's like, oh, I'm choosing all the wrong tracks, and I'm like, I'm doubting myself more. I think if I'm not not like feeling it and not connect, I'm doubting myself more. I feel like that, oh, this last choice was bad, and then the next one feels, oh, it's also bad, and then I'm like, it's funny, I'm literally, also because I've been DJing for quite a while, I've heard and listened to a lot of music in my life, and then I'm like, in these moments, then I'm like already criticizing and doubting the track before even thinking about choosing it. So I'm like scrolling through my library of songs, and I'm like, okay, here we have another West African children's choir singing atop a classic Afrobeat beat. Yes, we have a little bit of this. The toms, okay, blah, boring. Next, yeah, okay, we have the 16th accented bass line. Yes, like every melodic techno track. Okay, who's gonna fall for that? This is boring already. And I'm like, but music in electronic music works a certain way. We have a kick drum, we have usually 4 beats, we have the hi-hat, we have the clap, but then I'm already bored by my own choices before even making them. Like,
yeah.
it's a very very special kind of state, where I feel like, yeah, no one in the crowd would think that. Like, or maybe the 1% of DJs would think like, okay, he's playing a classic Afro house banger. Wow, exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I'm doubting myself a lot. And the opposite, I would really call it flow state. Is sometimes in my best moments when I'm in the flow state, I'm just really, I'm scrolling effortlessly through all these songs, hundreds of songs. And I'm like, yes, this one, and it's just like the key matches, the energy. I'm just knowing where I want to take the crowd. I have this inner landscape, this inner painting of where we are. Right now we are in the more like South African village, and then we go into the, Berlin corner, and then again back to the dirty disco, whatnot. And we go through all these little places together, and it's just a flow.
What about before playing live? Is there, because I mean, if you sometimes have the like, yes, I know that's the right track, that exactly hits, and then sometimes you have the like, that's shit as you go through. Is there are there things that you can do to help the chances of it being a good show instead of a bad show happen?
I think definitely helping. I think it's definitely helpful if I know my new music well. That sounds very obvious, but yeah, sometimes it's just live is a lot, and I've researched music. I found new tracks, but I've just when you dig as a DJ, you listen to a few seconds and you decide, is it a hit or a miss? Like, you want that or you do not. And then you buy it, you download it, you listen to it a bit in your collection, and you put it on a USB stick. So, but you have to imagine it's this funny thing as a DJ where you don't have time in the moment on stage to listen to every like single track that could be an option, right? If there's 50 tracks in your playlist and you wonder, one I played, of the 49 other ones, which am I going to play? You need to know a bit, at least a bit, how they sound, because you don't have the time to listen to all of them. And if then I don't know well enough my tracks, like, then sometimes it happens to me that I get a bit under time pressure or stress, because I'm like, okay, fuck, what do I want to play next? Of course, I have a zillion tracks in the bag which I know from older years before or whatnot, but like we said in the beginning, you want to show also new things to the audience. You want to play new tracks. I don't want to be bored by always playing the same, of course. And then it can be a bit hectic if I didn't have enough time to really prepare and listen to the tracks properly and have this audio, the sonic image in my head. What energy, what quality does this track bring?
Yeah, I could imagine just from my basic understanding, the panic of like if you start to queue up a track and then you realize it's not the right one, and then you see the one that's playing you're like, oh, okay, so
absolutely, it can be quite panicky, and you're like, okay, still nothing right, I got 30 seconds left. Whoa, oh my god, okay, it's just gonna be the West African Children Choir. And it's just gonna be
so to end here, the last question I like to ask is, I think when I first, so I started kind of my creative life a little bit later. Like I started at 28, and it's interesting for me because I had this like 10 years where I was just like a fan and consumer. And then I, started getting into my own thing and then, made it my job and whatnot. And one of the things that's interesting about that for me is like the more and more artists I meet who are successful, the more and more I'm like a little shocked and in some ways like disturbed by how fragile they are like financially, or how much how much they're still struggling even though they have a lot of apparent success, online or with the places they're playing, or they're doing these tours and whatnot. And it's made me interested in like this question of, art as a career, which is, I think none of us are owed it. It's a really beautiful thing. As you were saying, there are these downsides, like you're not with your friends on the weekends, but you also have more free time, more flexibility. It's a Monday at 11 and we're hanging out having a conversation. That's a privilege in a way. So I'm wondering for you, it sounds like you have a lot of different things you do. You're DJing, you're doing breath work, you've got a master, you're finishing your masters. But does it feel viable, I guess, financially and spiritually to do art as a career?
Big question. Yes and no. I feel the thing with art is you never know how it's going to evolve. You never know how taste is going to evolve, how the world is going to change, how maybe that one person that was always supporting you and booking you somewhere, maybe it's going to change careers, maybe it's going to change paths, and then suddenly maybe in country XYZ, you don't have any gigs anymore because this one person was your contact point, or the music that you play and love is less popular. I always, I thought also always, like, remember the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, right? Entire decades, of course, but in the 70s, the stuff from the 60s was so out, was out of fashion. Then the 80s came more electronic things, like the 70s, this, the glam rock or whatnot was in there. It was out. And this is the natural course of a creative trajectory of taste, of music, of art. And of course, there's some heavyweights, like if you're, I don't know, like a Beatle, the Toten Hosen in Germany, the Ärzte, they do these things for decades and they have their fan bases. But a lot of bands, they have their 4 or 5 years, 6 maybe, and then they have less success.
Yeah.
And it's similar for DJs, like also a lot of DJs fade after a while. They do different things, and some DJs manage to stay relevant, to stay, to stay hip. And I think to answer your question, is art viable as a path, as an option? I feel, it's really hard. I think you can never predict, and it's quite a hard one because you also I know also singer-songwriter friends, guitar players who make amazing music, and who've really struggled over the years to have success, to have shows, to have an income that's stable enough. They live from one funding to the next. And for me personally also, it's, it comes in waves. There's periods where where it's going really well. There's other periods where I'm having less shows, less, opportunities. And it's super hard to predict.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be comfortable in a way with that uncertainty, and you have to be willing to embrace it and to say, yeah, that is what I chose. And for me personally, I feel I'm in a way blessed because I have many interests, I have many passions. So it's not like that I need to actively look for, let's say, a safety thing, something next to music where I'm like, okay, this will be my stability anchor. because it's just naturally. I have a lot of things that I like doing, and they all play their part in my kind of work life.
And is there any fantasy, I call it the farm fantasy, but like fantasy of like, I want to go live in the woods and never go to a club again and just, play music for me. Do you have any of that, or?
No, actually not at all. No, I do consider sometimes, do I want to move a bit more into nature, because I'm a born and bred Berliner. I've been living in Berlin most of my life, except some traveling and really living in London. So I have to say, after like all the entire life, mostly in Berlin, I'm thinking about me maybe moving a bit to the nature, but still connected to Berlin. But yeah, no, I would never want to miss it, to connect with people. And I think for me, that's one of my core things, to open up spaces of connection and music and movement, dance, and sharing community with and for people, and I don't definitely resonate with the image of a lonely hermit in the woods. It's not, no.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much. This was really, really nice.
Thank you.
Maybe you could tell the people where to find you online. I'll put all the links in the description.
Yeah,
but
sure. Just briefly, Elias Doré, so Elias, and then Doré on Instagram, and Spotify, SoundCloud. There's lots of sets you can listen to, and I also have like a Telegram canal if you're into the kind of more conscious events that I do. I think you can find it if you look on Telegram for breath and movement events with Elias. So breath and movement events with Elias.
Yes.
And then there's like regular updates about singing circles, ecstatic dance. If you want to come to an ecstatic dance of mine, I think in fall of 2026 I will do in Berlin some more ecstatic dances. Come around.
Nice. And the links to all of that will be down there in the description below. Thank you so much.
Thank you
This
so
was
much
wonderful.
for the invitation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong, the show must go on.